Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commander Helm, thank you for your testimony, for your answers, for your service to our country, both in uniform and now helping those who are transitioning out of uniform. And I want to extend that thanks to those other panelists who are here and everyone, man and woman, sitting behind you. I would be remiss if I did not recognize the men and women from the great state of Texas. Do we have any Texans here?
Oh, got you.
All right. Great to have you with us today. Thanks for making the trip out. Listen, I've been in Congress for a little over 2 years now, and serving on this committee has been a terrific honor and a wonderful experience, made all the better for the help that I get from the American Legion, from veterans that I represent back in El Paso, Texas, who help me to understand what's really happening in their lives, in the access to care that they need from the VA, in the response times from the VBA. That has made me a far better representative than I would have been otherwise. And I got to tell you, another big honor in serving with a great chair and ranking member today is serving with Tim Walz, and I want to associate myself with all of his remarks and really everything that he does up here. Just a phenomenal human being, great veteran, and someone that I'm learning from and a mentor to me. So it's an honor to be here. Let me do this. I saw Verna Jones in the back. She came to El Paso soon after we had this wait time issue, not just in Phoenix. It was across the country, and certainly we had it really bad in El Paso. We were getting reports from the VA of 14 days to see a provider. I was hearing from veterans at my town hall meetings that it was far longer than that, and that some couldn't get in at all. Verna, the American Legion, were on the ground at the American Legion post on Vulcan in Northeast El Paso, helping veterans access care, getting them through the bureaucracy and the red tape, and connected to the providers that they needed to see, connected to the responses from the VBA that they and their families had been waiting on. I want to thank you for that. We had a terrible, tragic shooting and murder of a psychologist at the El Paso VA last month. 2 days after that tragic event, there was a town hall to get answers, to show support for the staff from the El Paso VA, and that was held at the American Legion on Vulcan in Northeast El Paso. Commander Britton there in El Paso, all the American Legion. Thank you for your leadership. Absolutely phenomenal. One of the things that I took from the feedback that I was getting from you and other veterans in El Paso was that you can't trust the VA to tell you how the VA is doing. When we were receiving assurances from the VA that they were meeting their deadlines of seeing veterans within 14 weeks, and yet I was hearing something very different from the community, we funded and commissioned a scientific survey, our margin of error of about plus or minus 4.5%, to ask all of the veterans in El Paso what their experience was really like. And what we found was the average, this is just the average wait time to see a provider for primary care at the El Paso VA was 85 days. That's an average. For mental health care, 71 days. But most alarming of all, fully 1/3 of the veterans that we surveyed could not get a mental health care appointment at all. Not in 14 days, not in 71 days. They just never were able to get in. We all know that that means that they are suffering, and it's not too difficult a connection to make between that lack of access, that suffering, and the 22 veterans a day in this country who take their own lives. It really took veterans telling me and me sharing that information with the VA and my colleagues to really get the action and the response that we needed. I authored the Ask Veterans Act last session with Bill Flores, got some great feedback from Representative Kaufman on that. You all were helpful in your feedback. Wanted to get your thoughts briefly, Commander Helm, on, as we reintroduce that again, the necessity to have independent checks and safeguards on the VA. Great people at the VA. I'm a big fan of Secretary McDonald. Amazing work that those teams do, but we need some independent assessment and analysis of their performance if we're going to make great policy. Tell me how we work with you to get that done.
Is Brian Phoenix. He's the Dominion president of the Army, Navy, and Air Force veterans in Canada, and that's the oldest veterans organization in Canada. You got it? Yeah. And now I want to turn this to Ralph.
Thank you, Commander. Mr. O'Rourke, thank you, sir. Mr. O'Rourke, I've been to El Paso, too. I was there on an American Legion System War Saving site visit in December of 2013. That mental health waiting list, that access, it was a problem then, and apparently it's still a problem now. And that was through our American Legion System War Saving Task Force, which you know about. In fact, you have one of your veteran representatives, I believe, at that meeting. And then we moved on to the Veteran Crisis Command Centers. The American Legion did that after the Phoenix debacle last year, the scandal, and that was our shoes on the ground at that time. Another aspect of the work that we do for oversight, if you will, by a VSO is our regional office action review teams, where Verna Jones and some of the people out of our claims division would go into a regional office and assess how the VA is doing with their claims. Our numbers differ from what the VA shows us on the claims backlog and so on. And through all this process, and I'll back up again to last summer when we did the Veterans Command Crisis Centers, and that's what you had in El Paso last summer, where we do our town hall meetings, we do claims, we bring claims representatives, we bring attorneys from the National Veterans Legal Services Program. The key to that is we work shoulder to shoulder with VA to make that happen, and we still do hospital site visits on there. And we're constantly working with VA because we know that no one agency that large could do this job alone. They need us. We need them. We want them to succeed. And the oversight could be done by people like us, but we fund it. We do all of our own thing on that. It's on American Legion's dime. And we've been well received in most cases at VA. Sometimes when we come out publicly and don't agree with them, the reception may not be as good the next time. And so those are just some of the things that we have to do. We're going to continue now with our Veteran Benefits Center, which include all these different elements. We began those in Washington last September. I was at that one, and one in California. And we have a few more planned. We were Bay Pines, Florida, and we have a few more planned coming up. And what we're trying to do is respond to the need as it comes out. You may have all seen the CBS News report this morning of Oakland, California. The backlog there, over 13,000 claims that were found in drawers and cabinets. And those numbers aren't even included in the backlog numbers. In the American Legion, it will assess on as we begin our next schedule to where there are hot spots in the VA for us to go to. That'll certainly be on the radar for us to assess. So that's what we're doing as a VSO to try to oversee, if you will, what happens with the VA.
Very, very grateful for your work. I yield back to the chair.
Thank you very much.